It is February 1st, 2023, and that means the end of the January transfer window. Aston Villa ultimately make a significant amount of business in this window, bringing in 2 players and getting rid of a load of waste. In all seriousness though, Aston Villa would ultimately have a quite lacklustre transfer window in January. Obviously this being the new season under Unai Emery, this is his first transfer window. There's a lot to discuss about what's happened from the outcome of this, considering all the possible stories that we were linked with. And that's what this video is going to be about today. Today we're going to be taking a little bit more of an in-depth look into what has actually happened. Those incomings, looking at those outgoings, the rumours, and ultimately what I personally think. Because I think it's quite a mixed market regarding the January transfer window and Aston Villa's business as a whole. So if you are going to enjoy this video, please leave a like. Obviously subscribe to the channel. We're only 250 subscribers away from 1,000, which is insane to think considering the pair of us are a bunch of tits. Obviously, go and follow us on the social pages. You can interact with us there as well. But without further ado, let's get started. So, as I mentioned in that intro bit there, Aston Villa would ultimately come out of this January transfer window. A window which has seen the likes of Chelsea spend nearly upwards of 300 million, Arsenal signing players, Southampton signing players, Everton signing nobody but getting a new manager in Sordijk. A lot of transfers going around in the world of football, but Villa, we are what we're focusing on, and Villa ultimately have quite a lacklustre window to say the least. You know, obviously, it's Unai Emery. It's the January transfer window, right? The January transfer window, you're not going to always solve all your problems. It's only a month to solve bringing in some new players or not. And considering this is Unai Emery's first real window with the team, only having been here for about 2 or 3 months now, he's not going to solve every problem. And I think although he's kind of starting to address some things more in the sense of the outgoings rather than incomings, it would have been nice to see some more players coming in. But let's look at who has actually come into the club. Firstly, we start off with a new left-back in Alex Moreno. Coming in from Real Betis, the 29-year-old left-back from Spain has already made 2 appearances under Unai Emery's current Blue Army. Obviously, he came on in that win against Leeds United at 2-1 when Luka Dean had to go off due to I believe it was a shoulder injury. He believes to have had a shoulder niggle. But he came on, looked really solid in that Villa Park debut. Looked like something that, okay, maybe I can see why Emery's wanted to go and target a new upgrade in that position. And he's looked decent. Then he's also had that start against Southampton where we won away from home 1-0 at Southampton, sorry. It's early days from him, but it clearly shows that Emery, that's a position that he wants to strengthen in. And it looks like even potentially with the rumours as well and the outgoings, that potentially that is going to get even more strengthened in the summer. And then their second signing was, of course, DURAN. Now, coming in from Chicago Fire, he's 19 years of age. So it's kind of a bit of a tipsy-turvy one. However, the big thing coming out of it is the fact that he's going to be amongst the first team. He's not going into the under-23s. Unai Emery has complete faith in him to deliver on the big stage and play a role in that first team setup. Obviously, you know, we don't have anybody else. I don't want to mention outgoings until we actually get to that bit. But no Danny Ings. You know, we're quite light on the striker front now, with Cameron Archer going out as loan as well to Middlesbrough, sorry. John DURAN, 6 foot something, scored a few goals. There's a lot of potential behind him. You know, apparently the likes of Manchester United and Liverpool were looking at the kid. But Villa beat him 2, paying around 20 million for him. It's anticipation, you know. It's obviously to see whether he's really going to deliver or not. At 19 years of age, is the answer right now? No. But he's definitely someone that can work in the future. But you never know. There must be a tremendous amount of faith in training and just overall in the manager to see someone of his age get back that much into the first team. Because you wouldn't really think of a 19-year-old coming in from Colombia, coming in from the MLS as well, that he's going to be starting straight away into a Premier League team who have a real good chance of Europe and having a strong finish to the season. You wouldn't really think that from Villa. But it's nice to see that they're going to back that ambition. As I said, it's not one for right now, it's one for the future. So it's something that we're going to have to work with and see what can really come of John DURAN. Because obviously we haven't seen him yet either. You know, hopefully there might be a chance he might make a potential debut on our game next at Villa Park against Leicester City as a recording. We'll have to wait and see. But JHON, DURAN and Alex Moreno being our only incomings for the window. And then obviously the one that finally did happen on transfer deadline day isn't really much, well, it isn't an incoming, but it's one that's considered to be surprisingly quite pivotal considering the fact that we didn't end up signing anybody else in the wider positions. BERTRAND TRAORE, he's now been recalled back on loan from someone in the Turkish league. Obviously, I believe the issue is he has had an injury, but he will be coming back into the fold as Unai Emery is meant to be quite the favour of the player. And also from the fact of it's more of a smarter move in the sense that we still have a winger in BERTRAND TRAORE who's on loan. Somebody that you can give him a go for at least 6 months, fill that void. And that's what he might be able to do. For me personally, it's not going to happen though, is it? Everyone wants to be like, oh yeah, it's really smart, it's a nice play, it's something that gives us a bit of a short-term option. Everyone's going to forget it until they start actually watching BERTRAND TRAORE. He's one-footed and he's so inconsistent with his performances that it's really hard to get behind a player like BERTRAND TRAORE. Admittedly, he did very well in his starting season. He did score a lot of pivotal and important goals. But it's, as I said, that inconsistency, finding that room to keep the pattern of goal scoring going. Because 1 minute he can have a great game like he did at West Brom away, and then the 1 minute he can have a really poor game away, or at home even. You know, it's the inconsistency. It's the fact he just can't seem to let go of his left foot. He's got to learn to use his right. But as I said, a short-term option is a smart idea because it at least gives us something else to work with. Otherwise, we would have been very bare-boned in that area. So that's really much of the incomings, but as I said, the main focus of this window perhaps was more so the outgoings. So we'll have a look at them now. First, we start with Danny Ings, signed only 18 months ago under Dean Smith, sorry, following a really great few seasons for Southampton. Signed for a very big deal. I believe he was the highest earner at Aston Villa on 150k. I'm not too sure about that, Emil Coutinho. He never got the magic, did he? He never had the magic. Ultimately, West Ham paying around 15 million for Danny Ings, which is a very good bit of business by Villa, to be fair. We're only really losing out 10 million, but 30 years of age, the money he was on as well, it frees up that wage bill. So now that in the summer, we can go and try and sign a proper quality striker that's actually going to do the business. From a personal standpoint, I have nothing wrong with Danny Ings. If anything, I thought Danny Ings should have at least stayed until the summer because I thought he was actually the better two on-form strikers between him and Watkins, the better finisher of the two. But ultimately, if that's what they wanted to do, he didn't feel like he'd fit into Emery's plans. Fair enough, but that was quite not a disappointing move, just one from a personal standpoint, really sad to see. Because I actually did quite like Danny Ings, but fair play to him. He's got to move to West Ham United, and so we can go and bag a few there. Obviously, finally, after so long, Frédéric Guilbert finally has a termination of his contract, and he ends up going back to Strasbourg, where he was on loan for the past season. Fair play to him. It's not like he never really got a chance statistically, never really delivered in that first season. And ultimately, I know people want to slag off Cash and saying that we need an upgrade. But compared to him and Cash, I'd rather be having Cash, and I'd still rather be having him right now. Admittedly, he's not on form right now, but then again, he's not really playing. You know, players need to find consistency in form by consistently starting, not consistently coming off the bench and making a brief appearance. But someone like Frédéric Guilbert, the heart was in the right place. He should have been let go about 2 seasons ago. Simply put, he's had his time wasted in his career, but hopefully he can make up for it now. Cameron Archer sent on loan to Middlesbrough. It's perfectly fine. He had one at Preston. This is really the same issue. Middlesbrough starting to climb up the table in the Championship. Gives him a bit of form. He's recently got a man of the match performance in the league. Can't remember which team, but you know Morgan Sanson's going to deliver. Morgan Sanson, Cameron Archer. Morgan Sanson's next though. Obviously getting a loan deal. Now not a permanent transfer, a loan deal. I don't believe there is a buy clause, but he's also joining Strasbourg, the same with Frédéric Guilbert. This is something that's really pivotal for me because I think Sanson has shown there is quality there. Obviously, he scored a goal against Stevenage, at least gave him something. But we all know the quality that Sanson can bring. He's just never had a fair chance. And I think somebody with a loan deal, he's finally going to find that passion for football again. And when he gets it, hopefully we can bring him into the fold of it. Because there is a good player there. There is somebody that hasn't had his potential utilised. So hopefully we can see Villa capitalise on that and actually make some use of it by giving him that loan time at Strasbourg in a team that's lower in the league and let him develop through, find the passion again, And who knows, we can see what happens there in the summer. But I'm hoping the best for him because he's somebody that does deserve it. And then some shorter deals. Obviously, Marvin Nakamba yesterday making a loan transfer to Luton Town. It's quite a surprising one, is it? But he hasn't really played. He had a little period of flourish under Steven Gerrard. But since Kamara's come in, Douglas Luiz is starting to find his form and consistency again. There's not really much of a place anymore for Marvin Nakamba, and it was time to at least give him some more game time and then see what his position can be in the summer. And obviously our 2 loan deals having been terminated. Bednarek going back to Southampton after their decision to bring him back in. We all know Bednarek was a short-term option. Obviously Diego Carlos will hopefully be coming back in the next month or 2. So we'll finally get to see him as a centre-half. But to be fair to him, Mings and Konza have been having a good season. You know, they haven't been great, especially the like Konza for me. I think Konza's been quite slipping down the pecking order, considering how good he actually was a few seasons ago. But Bednarek, really, he was fine. He didn't really do much wrong for me. He just was always going to be a short-term option until Carlos or at least another centre-half was brought in. And simply, that's what happened here. Only made like 6 appearances or something. Can't really say much. Not really much of an option. Just something that we needed to fill the void there with Bednarek. And then obviously for me, Ludwig Augustinsson going back to Sevilla to join Mallorca on loan. That's perfectly fine. I know he was injured against the Leeds game. I can't remember what game. There was a game he got injured in. I think it was... I want to say Stevenage. But it was like ligament damage in his foot. Everyone thought he was going to get injured. And the report was coming out that he's going to go back anyway. He was fit for the Southampton game. Was that the bench? But then ultimately was sent back anyway. That's perfectly fine for me. Augustinsson, he wasn't that good really. Again, another short-term option. Something to fill the bench. And it also shows, like I mentioned with their Alex Moreno signing, clearly Emery's targeting that position heavily. You know, Luca Dean, is he better than Matt Target? Yes, he's been massively much of an upgrade compared to him. However, 30 years old and 29-year-old left back in Alex Moreno, we need someone a bit younger. And now whether that be someone developing through the academy like Ben Christine, or even just a new left back in general, it shows that Emery's clearly targeting that position. So that's definitely one of those areas that needs to be kept an eye on. Going into the summer transfer window. So there's really all the outgoings there. Obviously that has been the main focus of this window perhaps for Villa. It's starting to clear out the dead one now, so that when we go into the summer, there's a complete overhaul, a complete fresh mindset into the window and really see who we can capitalise on. But let me know in the comments down below what you think of those outgoings. Is there one player that you would have liked to have kept there? For me personally, I would have liked to have seen Danny Ings at least until the summer, give us a bit more of an option going forward. But let's have a look now more so towards the rumours and overall the culmination of this January transfer window. So with any transfer window, you're going to get rumours, you're going to get signings, and this, for me, is the overall thought process behind the January transfer window. When we came into it, there was the belief that Emery was going to get backed. There was the belief that, you know, we could do with another forward. We could do some wingers, considering Gerrard and Smith have practically let them all go. We needed some more depth. And ultimately, we signed a left back and a 19-year-old striker who isn't going to be a straightaway solution. But just looking at some of these rumours here, Matteo Guendouzi, pretty much for the whole window, was a player that we wanted to sign. In actual fact, there was never really much of anything there, was there? There was interest, but there was never a bid or anything, just interest. Gerard Deulofeu, someone that we were targeting as well for the whole window to try and provide some width out wide. Ultimately was happy with Udinese, but reports are suggesting that there could be another potential go in the summer. Moussa Dembele in the last week and a bit, as low as 3 million if he was reported to be payable for the Olympic Lyon striker with a free in the summer. Southampton reportedly also interested in apparently had a bit accepted, but also nothing came of fruition for that. Dario Osorio, the university Chilean player, just more of a bit of fodder really. Luis Enrique, Harry Maguire at the one point with the centre half issue. Alberto Moreno, Weston McKenzie, who's ultimately now gone on to Leeds United on loan. Nico Williams, the 50 million that was reportedly tried to pay for him, but ultimately wouldn't budge. Ultimately, nothing coming to fruition. Now, there are some players there that I think should have been done. I think for me, mostly Moussa Dembele, right? My issue with this window is we're letting go all these players. We already have a bench that's pretty weak as it is. and beginning Traore is still injured, so we're still waiting for them. We don't have much of anything else. If Ollie Watkins isn't firing, which for the most part he isn't, he's inconsistent, what's our next option? Then we have to rely on Leon Bailey, who's an inconsistent player, JHON DURAN, who is 19 and is not an option, and that's it. Even on the website, the only forwards we have at Aston Villa Football Club are Ollie Watkins and JHON DURAN, but Bailey's listed as a midfielder. Moussa Dembele for 3 million for 26 years of age, who's going to be starting to go into his prime game. A free in the summer. Why have we not gone out and paid the fee for him? You know what's going to happen. We're going to go to the summer. We're never really going to have been interested in the player, and he's going to end up signing for someone random because he's on a free, so players don't have to worry about that. Why have we not gone out and gone on for him? If we really wanted some depth in midfield, why have we not perhaps looked towards someone in the Premier League or even in the Championship? Sander Berge was apparently a really heavily transferred player for Sheffield United, and yet nothing's come to fruition for him. The loan market as well, the fact that we've cut our 2 loans, so we had 2 loans free again. For me, it just doesn't make sense. That's my big gripe with this window. Yes, I'm disappointed that Villa haven't signed any players, because there's ultimately a lack of depth in the team and a lack of... I don't want to say we're throwing away a chance at Europe, but the fact that we do have a chance. I believe we're 3 points off top 10, we're 5 off 8th or 6th or whatever it was. There was a real good possibility there. And again, I'm not throwing it off, but you've got to think, if we really wanted to have that chance of going, because you never know what's going to happen in the next 5 months, we actually could make it. You need the depth, you need the team. Like I said, we've seen Arsenal go out and try and sign Mudryk, and ultimately, whilst they fall short, because Chelsea either overwillingly spend too much money on a player, look what they've gone and signed. They've gone and signed Leandro Trossard for about 12 to 16 million, which is a great bloody signing. They've gone and signed that centre-half from Spezia. They've gone and just signed on transfer deadline Jorginho for £12 million. That is a ridiculously great signing for him. Chelsea, for as much as they've overspent, look at some of their signs. They've managed to land Mudryk for 100 million. They landed Enzo Fernandez. They've managed to land, they've got Nkunku coming in this summer. They've signed a bunch of youngsters as well. There's a lot of potential behind Chelsea. Man United even. Weghorst, Sabitzer now on the last day. There's a lot of optimism and potential there. Southampton, some of the signings they've been making as well, being the likes of Everton to even some of them. Wolves, Lamina, Yao Gomez, Sarabia. There's a lot of potential players that could have been signed in this window. And for me personally, I just think that Aston Villa haven't really capitalised on this market. Now, you can look at it and say, we're not going to waste the money. If the player isn't there, we just wait until the summer and then really put the hammer down and go for it then. There's a lot more time to negotiate transfers. There's a lot more time to scout and develop into the ideal player for the team. And then ultimately we can have less stressful talks with that player. But I just think for me personally, even if it was a 6-month option, even if it was as little as 5 to 10 million, I just think some of these players should have been signed. I think Moussa Dembele could have been signed. I think considering what Leeds have managed to achieve, I think Weston McKenzie was easily signable. If you really wanted some depth in midfield. Do I really think we needed someone like Matteo Guendouzi? I'm on the side of no, we didn't. I think Kamara's doing perfectly fine. Douglas Luiz can still fill that role. We've still got Callum Chambers for at least another 6 months. There are players there that can fill these roles, and I just think we needed stuff going forward, really. Again, Traore is coming back. Begin will be coming back. Carlos will be coming back. There just needed to be a little bit more optimism when we're looking to that bench, when the players are getting knackered after around the 60-minute mark. You want to look at that bench and say, these are the players that we need to be bringing on to really make an impact in the game. And right now, it just does not feel like the depth is there to match potential ambition that we could achieve this season. But like I also said, I don't mind in some ways us not signing those players if they're not what we want for the club. It's a club of ambition. It's a club that has great owners who are willing to invest the money. It's got a manager that we have seen. It's not a new manager bounce. It's finally someone of world class and someone who knows what they're doing. You give him the money. You give the right scouting team the money. I think we could really have a really good summer. But also, again, on that flip side, we now have to expect that we are going to be matched with ambition in that window. Otherwise, a lot of fingers are going to have to be pointed at the likes of Perza, at the likes of the owners, at the likes of the manager for not ultimately, we don't go and sign as many players as we like in the January transfer window. That's fine. But considering the team as it is, it needs strengthening in the summer window. There is no two words about it. It needs strengthening, and if it doesn't happen or the right targets aren't brought in, then eyes are going to start to be looked at and issues are going to be raised. But ultimately, for me, in a January transfer window where players like Chelsea are signing 300 million plus players, Arsenal making these clever moves, teams around us, ultimately for me, I'm fine with it. I'm disappointed, yes, but I would have liked to seen some more depth, but ultimately there is still enough quality there, and whatever we finish on, for me, ultimately, it's not so much the season is a write-off, but it's like you can understand what will happen where we finish in the table, because you've got to think that it'll be Emery's first season then, he'll get the pre-season, he'll get hopefully his players in, and then we can simply sit there and say, now you've got to deliver, now you've got to show some ambition, because if not, things are going to have to change again, and then we're going to be through this process again, so it is what it is. But yeah, that has been the January transfer window and our thoughts. Let us know in the comments down below what you made of this whole debacle. Go and tell us on the social, but just go and comment anyway what you're feeling. Obviously, Villa's next game is Leicester at Villa Park. We will be there for the game, so look out for a video from that. But obviously, go on the social page, you can check us out there and interact with us there. Tell us in the comments what you think down below. But without further ado, I've been Ben. We will see you for that next video. Up the Villa with the pride of Villa. We'll see you later, guys.